Hello, hello, hello. How's everybody doing? Welcome to day 17. Happy Thursday. We're almost to the weekend. It's always exciting times when we get close to the weekend, mostly, anyways. Okay, day 17. It's so fun to talk about all of these things that I really have loved learning and enjoy. And today I would say is another one of my favorite topics. We're going to talk about self-care today. And I made myself some notes today so I wouldn't forget anything. There's so much, over the years, the things that I have discovered and used for self-care, and just to give some ideas that enable you to be able to come up with your own things and use some of the ones that I'm suggesting, maybe things you haven't thought of. Some of these, I'm just giving a warning up front, some of these are women specific and a lot of them are for any of us. So take what resonates, leave the rest as usual. So some of the things that I really enjoy, yoga, which we talked about several days ago. Yoga is such a great way to expand our consciousness, and I think self-care in general is a great way to expand our consciousness, in that we so deeply need to feed ourselves on deep levels and let that feeding and nourishment come from what our desires and what our needs are internally, and have less of that based on like external things and what other people may expect of us or think of. So self-care is a great way to really drop into ourselves on a deep level and heal, nourish, and take a time out. Some of these things aren't taking a time out. Some of these things are, more active. But self-care can be active or it can be passive, right? Okay, so yoga is kind of both active and passive. Having silent time where there's no radio or television or outside noise, no TV. And when you do that, for me, I start hearing like the buzzing of the refrigerator, that kind of stuff when the heater kicks on or the air conditioning kicks on, depending on what time of year it is. But I love just having silent time, and a lot of time that will help me drop into meditation and be able to garner information from the universe that either I'm wanting to come in or that the universe is wanting to send me. So those kind of different but the same. So silent time, meditation, reading books. I love to read. That anything that makes us more aware of things, and reading is a great tool and modem to be able to do, to get into somebody else's world or to expand our thinking on things, and a way for us to kind of get lost and away from the mundane in and out of our daily lives. I also use oracle cards. Some of these things I've talked about, but I wanted to kind of put them in a nice little container here today, all under self-care. Oracle cards used for yourself or for family and friends is a beautiful way to care for yourself, to get information. Baths. I love to take baths. I love hot water, so I tend to take my baths really hot, but of course that's a personal preference, so whatever suits you, you can, there's great science on doing cold baths too, and how that redistributes things and helps our nerves and gets us back to a place of homeostasis too. I hate the cold, so I'm not into doing any kind of ice bath or cold bath ever. Someday maybe I'll give that a whirl, but so far every time it's been presented to me, it's like, "Rah." And I love to add candles with my baths, to do Epsom salt in my baths. I bring crystals along a lot of times into the bath with me, and I think all of those things are really great ways to take a time out for self-care and nourishment. And when you add crystals, you can, some crystals don't want to be in the water, some crystals do, so you can add crystals to the water and work with them. I'll do a lot of times, I'll just go to my crystals and pick out things that I just intuitively will draw whatever it is, and then I will, sometimes if I don't know what the meaning of the crystal is or what energies they're working with, I'll look it up, and every time it always is accurate to what I'm going through or something that I am needing in that moment. Classes, there's lots of master classes right now. Every time I go on YouTube, I'm a big YouTube fan, obviously, and every time I go onto YouTube, there's commercials for master classes on pretty much anything that you could be interested in. So spending time doing things that you enjoy is self-care. There's also companies that do master classes or classes. I use the Shift Network a lot, which is here in Northern California in the Petaluma area. Mind Valley is another one online that I use a lot. But there's one stuff for feminine stuff. Neil Donald Walsh does stuff. I mean, so many people, these videos and master classes are really becoming popular and gaining a lot of attention on, building business. You can find a master class for basically anything. So those are great ways to time out and do self-care. Movies are another way that we can do that. There's lots of Netflix binging these days, and sometimes that is a great thing to do, and not, right? You can just do an episode to kind of take time out and put your mind in a place that is not, again, on the daily grind, in and out of things that we have to do. And for me personally, and I would recommend for you too, and I've spoke about this earlier as well, but to watch what we're bringing in. If you love scary movies, watch scary movies. But if scary movies like, make your heart start palpitating and you're making you sweat, or, you're clenching your hands, notice those things. That might be something that you might want to do less of. The news is another thing that, we can kind of do less of. I know I stopped watching the news pretty much basically in all ways, shapes, and forms many years ago, and I don't miss the stuff that needs to be there. I get plenty of information, but what I realized was the news wasn't typical of what is going on really in real life, that there's a lot of fear-mongering and stuff that goes into that. So just be careful, be conscious, be aware, bring some awareness to what you're bringing into your environment as far as movies and shows that you're watching. Again, I'm not saying if you love, crime scenes and crime movies or thrillers, scary movies, by all means watch those things, and also pay attention to what that does to your body and if it really is something that is self-care for you. Naps. Oh. Oh my goodness, I love naps. I don't take enough of them for sure, but naps are definitely a way to self-care, and that just puts you totally in the zone of just no information coming in unless you are there long enough that you get into some dream time. And that's good too. Dreams are a way for us to get information and really kind of tap into our subconscious levels, or mind, heart, gut. Time in nature. And excuse me, when I spend time in nature, I love, and suggest for you too, to kind of drop into Gaia. I love when the ground is soft, whether it's grass or, if I'm on a trail, if I have choices, like the park I was at yesterday, I have trail choices between dirt and asphalt, and I always take the dirt because I feel more connected to earth, and I like to always drop into Gaia. And just having that energetic resonance, and like, hey, Mama Gaia, like, I'm here checking into you, I'm connecting with you, connect with me, speak through me, feed me, and I am here to feed you too. So there's this, in and out, like where she feeds us and we feed her, and of course that happens naturally. And having some intention around being fed, like right now, noticing the sounds of the birds, insects that are crawling around, bugs that are crawling around. I hear a bee too. Even planes that are flying in the sky, or cars that are driving by. But really just getting into a zone where you're aware. Looking up at the sky, flowers, different kinds of trees, smelling, stopping to smell the flowers, the wind, there's wind right now, and how that feels like on your skin, really allowing yourself to be super present to the moment that you're in. So that's presence, bringing in presence too. And we can walk, we can run. A lot of people will listen to music or books on tape, or master classes, that kind of stuff, while you're out in nature too. And I think that that's great. And I also think it's great to have just the surrounding of what's here naturally, what's here for us. We have a lot of redwoods here in Northern California, so I love to go into the redwoods. I took you up to sequoias earlier this week. Waterfalls after it's been raining. I live right here on a creek, so I love water and streams, watching frogs or pollywogs or crawdads. I've seen crawdads too. So all of those things that are ways that we can really drop in and care. Music, mantras, which are used a lot of times in meditation and Sanskrit, usually in Sanskrit, and ways for us to, again, have thousands of years of energy and kind of programming going into healing the planet, healing ourselves, healing each other, and opening our hearts and our minds and our souls to the vastness and greatness that is here. Mudras, I'll talk about mudras here on another video coming up soon, but like the prayer pose, this is a world-known mudra, and so mudras are hand movements that we do with our hand, and they can shift the energy of your body quickly. That's another thing. Drives, going on drives and exploring. I have a friend who would spend time as a child with her dad, and he would get her in the car and say, okay kid, left or right, and they would just, as they came to intersections or different places on country roads, it was like, just go, left or right. And I love to do that. That feeds me really, really deeply, so that gives me a real deep sense of self-care. Love, touch, sex are all things that are more intimate, and also ways for us to drop into self-care real deeply. Time with our children, time with pets, and having time with our children can be busy and active, and also it can feed us and them on such deep levels when we really focus our time and attention there. And I feel a real deep sense of self-care when I spend focused time with my children. It's something that when I'm with them, that I really have clear intentions that, I want to be with them on a real deep level. Having food with them, that's another thing we can do. Nourishment, however we nourish ourselves. If you're craving something, go get you some. For sure. Let's see. Pets too, I wanted to mention. With pets, there's studies that show, I also have another friend who had a cat that reduced his cholesterol. He got to stop taking his cholesterol meds. He called it his heart health cat, that really just brought in a deep sense of peace for him. So that's great self-care too. Showers, I mentioned baths earlier. Showers, I like to dance and sing when I'm in the shower. The other thing that I really love to do is, as the drops come down from the shower, to like stick out my tongue and let the beads of water dance on my tongue, and it feels so good. It feels so good. So that's something I recommend everybody try. Just bring sensuality into our lives, right? It's a great way to drop into deeper levels to ourselves too. And of course, tantra, or sex, having sex with ourselves or with another human being, all of those are great ways to care for ourselves. Goddess work too. I love me some goddess work. Getting to know about the goddesses, different goddesses from different pantheons and different areas. There's many. You got Hindu and Greek. There's many different lines of goddesses. Some of them are real similar, and then there's names that come from this tradition or this tradition. And I find that that's a really great way to flow days where you just flow. Take a day, a month, or every 2 months, depending on what your schedule is and how busy your life is, and having time to really flow. Like, what do I want to do in this moment? And then let something drop in for you. And then once you've completed or gone through that, then like, okay, now what's next? Those days can be so rich with healing and joy and passion and purpose. Yoni baths too, which is the cleansing. There's herbs, many different herbs that we can use as women to steam herbs and sit, so you put the pot like in the toilet and sit over that and have clean our yonis. And then yoni crystals too are another kind of feminine only thing that, we can use yoni crystals to meditate and strengthen our pelvic floor and heal from sexual trauma or trauma really in general, and be able to have a deeper sense of connection to ourselves in that area. Time at the ocean, being at the ocean. I, for many years would like take a blanket and chairs and that kind of stuff with me to the ocean, and then several years ago it was like, no, just yourself, and then I got into this huge phase where I just wanted, like, I could, even though I'm in Northern California, there's a cove that I go to that is one of my favorite places here on the ocean that's nearby, and it's kind of sheltered from the wind, so I would be able to be in my bathing suit and just being able to rub this sand through my hands and in my feet, and really making that a super sensual experience and connecting. I have never connected with Gaia more than when I first started doing that practice at the ocean, of really just like feeling, in the sand. And at this same beach that I'm talking about, All of the grains of sand are either little tiny shells or different rocks, and tons of different colors and shapes. You know, a lot of times I get heart-shaped ones, which I love. I love that too, but many, many different colors. So really, like, going into the finite details of some of the stuff that's around us, like looking at the sand, really listening to the waves crash in to the beach. And it's sunbathing, right? That goes sunbathing too. Sun gazing, you can do sun gazing. You probably want to look up some information on the internet on how to do that, but sun gazing actually is really good for our eyes. And then eye gazing too, speaking of eyes, eye gazing, we can take a friend or a significant other, a lover, somebody that we're passionate about, and look into each other's eyes, and you really can connect with each other's souls when you do that. Taking time out to daydream, just to be able to, what would I love my life to be like? What changes what I love in my life? And our brains don't know, when we're daydreaming, our brains don't know if it's real or if it's not real. So having time to daydream is a beautiful way to do self-care, and also to start manifesting things for us in our futures. Writing. I'm a writer. I'm writing a book right now, and I love to write. And you know, some of these things like writing, that can be work, but it also can be self-care, where I'm putting all my thoughts down on paper. You can put all your thoughts down on paper and really have that depth that of clearing your mind and your body of things, or being able to work things out. I use active imagination a lot too, where I'll ask myself a question, or if there's a part that is been agitated, you know, if I have my inner critic that is really active or something like that, that I'll be able to do. Sorry about that. I have a neighbor came over with her dog, and he's barky. So getting back to, okay, so I talked about writing. I think I was talking about dancing. Dancing is another way that you can really just get into flow and let your body move. And another thing that I feel is really, really sensual and brings me to a deeper place than I can get just when I'm, you know, in my monkey mind or day-to-day activities. Dancing is a great way to really drop in. And then we can do purging too, taking time out to sit and like, what is not working for me mentally? What is not working for me physically? What in my surroundings and household items are not serving me any longer? And think about things that we can purge, and that's a great, great self-care item as well. Traveling, having a hotel that you go to, a getaway that you do by yourself, to maybe a place that's local or somewhere that you've wanted to visit. Being, you know, I watched something on Kobe Bryant from his wife here recently, that he had texted her, you know, just before he had passed away, and told her that he wanted them to be able to travel, you know, and be able to spend some time with just the two of them. And it's so sad to me to think that he has, you know, so many of us think that time or money, and he has the financial means to be able to do those things. And it just breaks my heart that with all of the abundance that they had in their life, that as a couple, they weren't able to spend time together, just the two of them. So spend time with your loved ones on a one-on-one basis, or, you know, a small group of them, whether it's family or friends or a lover, neighbors, your children. All of those things can be great, great self-care for us. Let's see. Ooh, another thing too that for me, I tend to have pretty severe menstrual cycles, so I've thought about having, you know, getting a group of women together that can support each other during our menstrual cycles, and bring each other soup, or, you know, do some massaging, or, you know, if we've got cramps and that kind of stuff. Those are things that we can help as women, we can do for each other and help each other bring in a network of of women where even if it doesn't even have to be when we're having PMS or menstruating, but having a bad day or just needing extra love or extra attention, being able to touch is so important too. And it's important, I think, in kind of going back with the Kobe stuff, for us to balance work and play and fun and rest. So many of us are driven to, work and providing our basic needs. And it really is so imperative that we have a more balanced life that feeds us on many different levels. And then we can spend time, which I've said this too, but spend time with the stars at night. Last night, Venus went into Taurus, where she's pretty strong, and I was born with a waxing half moon. So that was on Monday, and Venus went into Taurus yesterday, so I came out on my deck and was able to see her up there and spend some time. So I love to spend time with the planets, like stargazing, planet gazing, doing meditations, and really having communion with them, talking with them. Like, hey Venus, what would you like me to know? What would be something that I can bring? She's the goddess of love and passion and aesthetics. What is something that you would bring into my soul or into my world on that level? So those are all good things. And then lastly, I want to talk about a modality that I have been trained in, which is voice dialogue. I had kind of mentioned, if you have parts that are bugging you, that kind of thing, just to be able to have time where you set aside time and listen to what those things are saying. And voice dialogue is a certification that I have to go in and talk to. We all have many different parts, right? We have our happy parts. We have the part that we play out during work or with family or friends, and our inner critics and our inner children. A lot of us have wounding from when we were children. So working with those parts, and Hal and Cedar Stone have really a great method that I learned from a teacher named Tim Kelly, and he kind of expanded on their teachings. And it's just a wonderful way to balance out our internal workings and things that we may be struggling with in life. So that's something I offer services to. So I feel like this was a lot of information today, and I wanted to write stuff down because as I started thinking about it, I was like, there's so many things. So I feel like, even if you take one or two of those items, like I tend to get bored, and I have Mercury close to my sun sign, so my head is kind of always really active, and so I tend to get bored if I do the same routine over and over. I'm not that kind of person that can, do the same thing every day, day in and day out. I need to have some flexibility and some variety in what I do. So I have like a list of things that I can do for like my spiritual practice and for self-care. So it's like I can pick that, so that could be something that you could do for yourself as well. I sure hope you enjoyed today. I know I did. There's no feels today as far as crying and being emotional. So it feels good to have a day that I am just feeling stronger and more upbeat, positive, happy mood. And not that the sadness is bad. We're in Pisces, so it's kind of like par for the course as far as that goes. But I hope you enjoyed today. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. Let people know to come visit my channel, and I appreciate your time for being here with me. Blessings. Namaste.